Today's episode is one that I am honored to bring you. It is with girl dad, coach, and soon to be author Danny Lesslie, who lost his wife to cancer just 6 months ago. 6 months ago. Y'all, this guy is in active grief, and he is channeling that grief into writing, posting, and connecting with people online. His book will be coming out soon. This episode truly is it's like a postcard that was written from the edge of everything. Like the truth that is coming out of this man at this very, very real, raw time is profound, it's difficult, and it is a must listen. I found out and connected with Danny was from Instagram, and it was this post right here. I'm going to read you a couple of excerpts because it was when I read this that I was like, this guy is really talking some you might die tomorrow truth telling, and I've got to bring it to more people. So he said that life man has no reverence for plans or feelings. Take my story as a gleaming example because he fell in love. Check, check. He married his best friend. Check, check. He started a family. They have 2 beautiful girls. Check, check. And then guess what? She got cancer and she died just 6 months ago. This is what he has to say about some of his lessons that he has learned throughout this, that he says you can take with you for a rainy day. Actually, scratch that. They work on all the days. Number one, your ability to pour into yourself consistently will build you a foundation that allows you a tremendous tolerance for the unannounced blows that life will deliver. So what he's saying here is that if you have a desire to make it through the challenges of your life with strength and grace, you have to pour into yourself. He says, keep small promises to yourself every day and build momentum. Number 2, he says, love is an action word. Show it and be lavish with your dosage on those you care about. He goes on to say, number 3, be the first one. Be the first one willing to apologize. Be the first one to pass out hugs like you've got pockets full. Be the first one to say hello. What he's talking about is taking away the masks and the chain and the locks that we have across our heart and just being love and being open in our lives, not holding back our feelings. He also talks about squaring up with God, talking to God on the regular, your God, your higher power, something that's outside of yourself so that you feel like you have a channel, that you're not just stuck in this inner prison of self-centeredness. Trust me, I get stuck in it all the time. Number 5, believe in yourself and your value. You're not worthy because you do things. You are worthy because you are. This is so important. I'm the first one to overwork, be achievement obsessed. I'm working on it, yes. But to break out of that achievement obsession and to realize that we don't have to do anything, that we are just worthy because we are, is the most profound lesson we can learn in terms of our self-worth. And finally, he says, you don't and you might not have as long as you think. Swim in your moments. Either we're dying to our moments or our moments are dying to us. We all have our clocks on different days. You never know how long we have. You might die tomorrow. Someone you love might die tomorrow. Just keep that in the forefront of your consciousness. Don't go into thanatophobia and obsess about it, but keep the reality of our mortality at the forefront of our consciousness. You can call it ephemerality. You can call it non-attachment. But just remember, don't lean into complacency that we have all the time in the world, because as Danny found out, and as you'll hear in today's episode, we don't know how long we have. Get your tissues. This is a message from the edge of everything from Danny Lesslie.
Put your hand on your heart, look up at the sky, smile and say, hey, I'm alive. Thanks for being alive with me today.
Welcome to Be Alive with Kate Manser. Today, I am joined by Danny Lesslie, who is someone that is on a journey that many of us have trouble even conceptualizing. Danny is 6 months out from a great loss in his life and is already somehow some way figuring out how to derive wisdom amidst his grief. You are a dad as well and a former trainer. Welcome to the show, Danny.
Thank you. It's really an honor to be here.
You spent many years as a trainer, and then your wife passed away only 6 months ago. Is
Yep.
that right?
Yeah.
And you have how many kids?
2. We have 2 girls. They're 8
Two
and
little
10.
girls. 8 and 10.
Yeah.
And so my first most burning question is just how do you think you're able to already find the wisdom, not only find wisdom in this just really, really challenging time, in this adversity, but also have the courage and the ability to share it out?
I don't know if it's really wisdom as much as it's just talking about what's happening in my life. My wife and I decided years and years ago to talk about this experience on social media. Some people don't like that and some people do, but for us, it was all the pain and all the struggle. And we just wanted to put it out there, and it helps to get it out of you. And so just along the way, it's just been something that we've talked about. And I didn't know what else to do when I lost her because it was all pent up inside. And that was really a struggle that I was having. And so in talking about her, I started to feel like a release of sorts, just like a pressure release, kind of like when you press on the thing of a tire that lets pressure out. I started to kind of I just kept talking about her and posting videos of us and, when we were happy and life was great. And it just, it felt like it was leading me forward and I felt really stuck. So that's just kind of what it's come from. And it was intentionally for me to help me cope with things. And over time, it's come to be that other people I find get something from it. And that's really a gift because it's just born in all the pain and struggle and being disoriented after all of this and, waking up every day and realizing that it is real and that I get to deal with it again today. And that's not fun. We along the way talked so many times about that there's no way that all this pain and all this struggle exists without light coming from it or love or, like something. And so that's just what I've held on to. And I just keep talking about it. It's grief is so weird if you've not been through it. And I was the person that's not been through it and until now. And it was Andrew Garfield said it so beautifully when he said grief is all the unspent love you have for someone you lost. And the way that he worded it is he said unspent. And that's so true because, when someone's here, you're giving them love in whatever form it is. When they go away, they're not here to give them the love anymore. And it feels very stagnant in you. And you feel stagnant and just, you don't know what to do. And I heard that quote. And then I thought about, for me, writing has always been a place to go to kind of sort things out, like the storms inside of me to kind of sort them out. And then I just was looking back through my videos in my phone to remember her. And I was like, oh, well, I'll just put them together and post them on Instagram because that will create this experience that will be helpful. And inside of that, I started to find that I was spending the love that I have for her. And that has been really helpful. So it's not,
Oh my gosh.
I just kind of stumbled into it. Not that it wasn't like I had this plan or something. It was just, I was trying to keep my nose above water.
That idea of us unkempt love, like just getting bigger and bigger and having nowhere to invest it into. And of course, you are investing love. You have 2 beautiful daughters, you've got
Right.
family, but the love for Rafaella, your wife, right? Like that is just building and you're like, where do I go? What do I do with it? And so
Yeah.
now you've channeled it into making these videos. And what's the impact that you've seen so far just in the past few months?
I mean, I feel it in myself. Like I feel like when I wake up in the morning, it's like despair, right? Because she's not here. And when I start to write, I start to feel like myself again a little bit. And I start to feel like I'm connecting to her. And then I get people write to me and say, hey, I haven't talked about losing my person. And thank you for writing about what you wrote about because I feel the same way. And I know that there's a space for this now, and it's like this odd space that I stumbled into where people write all the time, and I started to realize how many people have loss in their life. It's insane. Like, I don't know why I'd never thought of this, but I mean, it's off the charts. The amount of people that are like my demographic, right? So I'm 43, have 2 kids. Like, the amount of people that are like with young kids and have lost their spouse is unbelievable to me. And it's something I think it's like a prison, right? Grief is the thing that, like, I want to talk about her and share about my life, and people don't want to make me feel bad, so they don't bring her up. And it's like, "Listen, I'm already sad. You don't have to do it, like, anything you say is not gonna hurt me." It's like, I'm already there, but it's like a prison, like, you feel alone on this island because people don't wanna talk about it, and unless you have close relationships that you share, it's like it's so isolating, and that's you already feel terrible, and I was like, "This is what's coming of this is not what I expected, but it's a beautiful thing," and I find it's been really interesting to have this experience.
Wow, so connecting you with other people that are going through similar things.
Yeah.
I have this sense of, when we're really in deep emotion, whether it be grief, heartbreak, or combinations of all of those, don't you
Yeah.
have this feeling like you're just an alien? Like life is just going on normal around you
Yeah.
and you're like, am I on another planet? Like you just feel so far removed from everyone. Is
Yeah.
that how you feel?
Yeah, totally, and our story, we battled this for, like, 5 years. So, our life moved from feeling like the normal life to, like, another planet, so now it's like I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, I was like, "I don't even to re-enter normalcy, like, I don't even know what that means," so it just if you're so removed and it's so difficult just to, let's say, to go to a social event or to go to the store or, when she first passed, I remember taking the girls to school, and this is the first time they've gone to 5-day-a-week school, and I couldn't even speak to the teachers. I was like I couldn't get words out, and I would just cry, it's like re-engaging with your life is so daunting, and it makes you just wanna go curl up. You just wanna go in a dark space and curl up and not participate.
Yeah, that self-preservation, right? Of just like all of the energy is going grieve. I mean, if you just think about it on an energetic level, right? Like we take in food, right? We have so much energy
Yeah.
for emotions and life. And when all of that energy is going towards processing that loss and missing your person and doing the bare minimum of what you can to survive in this world, taking your girls to school, trying to eat,
Yeah.
trying to tidy the house or whatever, to the bare minimum that
Yeah.
we can do. That's it. That's all you're capable of. And I think about
Yeah.
it when people have chronic illness as well, which I'm sure you saw with Rafaella for those 5 years. I remember a few years ago, I had a sciatica flare up where I was on a cane and it was just this constant pain, especially when I was standing. And I remember being in the grocery store once and I think I was in Whole Foods and there was like 20 different brands of yogurt to purchase and I just started crying because I
Yeah.
had no energy to decide what fucking brand of yogurt to purchase, like, who cares? But
Yeah. Yeah.
that's just I give that example to add some color to this is, like, I didn't even have the energy to speak to your kids' teachers. You're like, "Here, take my
Yeah.
children, take care of them." There's, like, this silent yeah, and how has that evolved in the past 6 months?
I mean, I think it feels it's still very heavy, and the thing that's tricky about grief, or one of them, is that it's different every day. You lose someone, obviously, like, physically lose them, but then you lose them every single day in a different way, and that's really hard. Like, like, today, so I saw an old guy that I know, and he was looking at his wife's dress in his driveway, and I know that he's losing his wife. So I think she's still around, but he's losing her anyways. So, like, I was just walking down the street and I see this guy, this old man, and he's holding out this dress looking at it. And I know that feeling. of holding her close. And I don't know exactly what he's thinking, but I know what he's thinking. And it's like, it's all right here again. And this is, we're 6 months out, this is every single day, it's something different, and that's really hard.
Mhm.
And
Mm.
there's, there's no fix. And that's probably the hardest thing for me to accept is that, and it was when she was sick, is that I couldn't fix it no matter what. Like I could feel what I want. I could cuss, I could do whatever I want, but there's no fixing this. And that was really one of the hardest things was just to watch and just be present. And it still is like I can't fix it. I can change how I behave, but there's no fixing it. And that's really hard. It just is a continual process. And what I've learned is to just take it as it comes and honor the feels when they're here, and when they're not, don't feel guilty about it. And because you don't allow someone a place in your heart and then that just goes away. Like you doesn't it's not possible, right? Just there's still a place in my heart for her. Like I gave that to her. It's not going away. So, and it'll always be there, right? She'll always be the kid's mom. So, but dealing with it is just you just move forward, and it just is here. It's like the friend that won't leave.
I just feel like I don't know, I'm seeing this as this visual as you're talking about, like, all these emotions and just all the changes that you've experienced, not only over the past 6 months, but over the past 5 years, right? And you even said that before you and Rafael got together that spent a lot of your earlier adult life kind of numb, and so then Rafaela
Yeah,
comes into your life and you come alive in this amazing and profound way, and then you guys were together for 7 years, and then she gets cancer, is battling that for
yeah,
5 years, and as you were talking about these emotions and his wife's stress, and you know that he's pre-grieving her because she's
yeah.
the end of her
Mm,
life is coming up, moving through all these, different emotions that come up every day, and I think that's an important point about grief is that it's not like, oh, the same it is Groundhog Day in a way, because
it
you
is,
wake up,
yeah,
like you said, with despair, but also it's a little bit different every day. And I just got this visual of like all these tectonic plates in you. You know, you were put together one way, that has been broken, and
yeah,
all these tectonic plates are now shifting, and that's very uncomfortable. And they will eventually come to rest in some place. But every day that you process some new element of loss or new element of grief or just feeling these profound emotions, things are shifting within you. And what a crazy state to be in and find some sort of balance. And it sounds like a lot of that balance has come through speaking. Like you're showing up today and you're like, I'm fucking raw, but here I am. I'm going to come on this show and I'm going to talk to people and tell them what it's really
yeah.
like.
Yeah, I mean, it's okay to cry, like, it's not a big deal, Every day is raw. Now, you can avoid it, you can run from it, you can try to drink it away, you can try to whatever it away you want, but it doesn't help. It feels like I'm sitting right next to this huge dark cave that I don't know what's in there, and I know that in my life, I will deal with all of the darkness in that cave, and there are things, one of them is writing, one of them is I walk with a weighted vest, that's very helpful. Allow me to, like, take a spoonful of grief on my own terms and deal with it because it's coming for me regardless. And so the things that I've done intentionally to deal with it are very helpful. They feel like it's a way for me to take what's inside and get it out here and mess with it, right? And that's been really helpful. But yeah, it's like it's raw and that's okay. That's
Yeah.
it. I don't have any other answers.
And say it again for the people in the back. Drinking doesn't make it go away. It
I
just
mean,
makes it
and
go away
I've
for a while and then it
I've
comes
tried.
back.
I've tried all the things. They don't work, right? Grief is here for a purpose, and people don't like pain, obviously, but there's a purpose for it, right? And you mentioned about the 30 years of numb. Like growing up, I was very focused on what people outside of me were thinking and how, like the temperature of the room I was in, like with the people. And so I would respond to that and I would kind of morph my behavior to be appropriate, if that's right. So I got very good at it. And then eventually that led to like I was in sales and it was very helpful in that space. But then when I met her, there was a depth of joy and love that she had that was untouchable. I've never seen it before in a person. And I fell in love with that. And I experienced real depth, real connection, real emotion. And I kind of had this feeling, not a feeling of shame, but like a feeling of I kind of missed out on this previously in my life. And your experience is your experience. There's nothing you can do. You just have to move forward. So I know the feeling of numb. And then to experience that is such a gift. I could have lived and never experienced that. And I realized that my relationship with her was a huge gift from God. And it's hard to lose that. But also, like, grief wouldn't be what it is without that experience. Without the love leading into it, grief is not, it's like the expanse of the love you experience is the magnitude of the grief you experience. And it's like, if I have to live in grief for the rest of my life because of that, I'm okay with it because of what we had. And I realized that I also could have lived a whole life and not had that. And so I'm thankful for that and grateful for that. But that doesn't make it not hurt. It's just that how you talk about it in your head.
Yeah.
So
So I have a similar, not similar in that I've lost a primary partner at all, but I definitely was sleeping and numb for the first like 29 years of my life. And then when I was 30, I also experienced death. I had three friends of mine, my boss at Google, a friend of mine from college, and then my ex-husband at the time's cousin who we were really close with. They all died in the span of 6 months. And then I spent a year in death anxiety where I thought I was going to die at any moment, and then a fourth friend of mine died, and that was the moment that I woke up. So,
yeah.
similar to you, the way that it happened was different, of course, but I definitely had that experience, and now that I'm more than 10 years out from that, I just turned 40 this year, I definitely have this feeling of looking back at my life from, like, sleeping Kate to awake Kate, and it sounds like you have a similar experience of we literally came alive around 30, and so I'm just curious, like, what was that experience of coming alive like for you?
About I'm trying to think of how old I was. It was right around 30, but I was in Kansas City, which is where I'm from, and I was in the financial business, and I didn't like it, and I decided to move into the fitness space, and did that, and then I wanted to go out to California to start a gym. And it was in that, I'd say that commitment to what I wanted that this story, this version of myself began. And then in that pursuit, in building that business, was when Rafi walked into my life. Everything changed, right? I was doing this thing that I wanted to do in my life, and then she shows up and instantly, you know, it was obvious this is my person. We were both dating other people at the time, and we ended up eventually breaking up with those people, and then it was like a magnet. And then we were like, okay, when are we gonna have kids? I mean, it was so fast. And so we, were engaged for a year, or we were dated for a year, engaged for 10 months, married, had our first girl, had our second girl, and it was so fast. But in that, what happened inside of me was I lost control when I met her. And in the loss of control was where what I found was like I think I know my head and my heart aligned, and I didn't know where it was going, but I knew what the journey was had so much more depth and so much more color than anything I had ever experienced. And I just fell in love with her. And then we were just off on this journey, right? And then that took us from LA. We decided to leave, got out of the gym. She was managing a barbecue place and teaching at the time. We sold all of our stuff, bought an RV, traveled for 40 days, moved back, lived in an RV for a year. I mean, it was like we didn't care what we were doing, where we were. It was just like we were just together, and that was all that mattered. She was home. In the course of that time was when this came about, and she was always home though. It didn't matter what we were doing, and I didn't care.
Yeah.
And it was because of the depth. It was because of what we had together, and yeah, and that was I didn't need any convincing. I knew it, and so
Yeah.
yeah,
I can't help but think though, that first big yes that you had when you were like, I can't do this financial work anymore. It sounds like you were at odds with that.
Yeah,
And maybe you had friction for a while of like, oh, I have to do this. This is my job. I need to make money. I have to be here. And then all of
yeah,
a sudden you're like, no, I'm going to say yes to living a totally new life. So you
yeah,
pick up and you move to LA, you start a gym. And that was a huge sign to the universe that the universe is like, all right, God's like, Danny's not playing around. If I send him somebody that's gonna make
yeah.
him feel totally out of control, there's a chance that he might dance with her. And you did because it sounds like when you met her, it was so crazy. You probably were scared at first because it was so big.
I wasn't. I just knew it. I just knew, right? It was like the time that I decided to go to California, it was like, "Well, you don't have anything out there." And I was like, "I don't care." People were like questioning my decision. I was like, "I don't need your validation because I made the decision. I'm not asking for it. I'm just telling you what's happening." And that was the same way with her. I was like, "We're just gonna do it. Like, this is the right thing to do." And I very much believe that when you commit to something and you're all in, that God honors that. And, tell her, like, she was a gift to me, like, there's no 2 ways about it, and I've had people ask me that too, like, "Are you mad at God because she's gone?" I said, "No, she was a gift." Like, I got 12 years with her, I got a family, I got, like, this is the experience that we had was so rich, you know? You couldn't be mad that someone gave you a gift, you couldn't be mad at them, like, "Why didn't you give me another gift?" You know what I'm saying? Like, they gave you a gift, like, God gave me her, and she's the best thing that's ever happened to me, you know?
Yeah.
I just wish there was more time, but
Yeah, especially a gift that big and that profound. And, even though she's gone, you're still like, again, these tectonic plates are shifting, you're learning, you're
yeah,
growing, you're like, get me off this ride,
yeah,
but I'm also learning a lot on this damn ride.
yeah,
So it sounds like you spent a lot of time in the fitness industry and doing
yeah.
really hard workouts. We can't have a conversation about losing your person to cancer without having a conversation about resilience. So, do you feel like it was your time doing really hard workouts and pushing yourself physically that really prepared you for the resilience of a 5-year battle of cancer? What do you think it was?
I mean, yes, I would say that's part of it. I think she was the resilient one. I'm just by her side the whole time. It was since she was diagnosed, it was well, since her first surgery, which was when she was diagnosed, it was 1,592 days until she passed. So you think and she was in pain every day
Mhm.
without question. You think about 1,592 days waking up in, like, real pain is outrageous. If it's so like I say, if you would tap a pen on the table 1,592 times, you would stop before you got there. It's so many. You'd be like, "No, I'm tired of tapping this pen." And she this whole time, she was a loving mother, she was a loving wife, she was joyful. It's unbelievable, and so for me, like, there was no excuse as to why I couldn't show up. I was watching her every day, and like, well, obviously, I can show up and do my life because I'm not the one that's been lying on my belly in a bed for 2 years. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I guess I could appear as a resilient one, but she's the one. Like, she was the strong one. I was just by her side. So for me, it was like, yes, I can show up today no matter how I feel because she's showing up today despite wildly alarming odds. And we don't need to go into all the stuff, but having vulvar cancer as a woman is horrific, right?
Mhm.
Like if you were sitting on a saddle, every place touching the saddle has tumors, right? So she couldn't sit for 2 years. Imagine life. You can't sit. How do you go to the store? How do you do anything? It's really remarkable her resilience in that time and her strength and her ability to show up as a wife and mother. Like it just blew me away. So for me, that was why it was easier to do that because I was watching her,
You're
not
like, "Damn,
because
I
I
gotta get
was
my shit together."
yeah, I mean, it wasn't like obviously I can show up. She was an athlete, like super fast, super strong, amazing athlete. And so for her, I know part of the journey was built in her wiring for that. Like, she was so strong and so fast. She ran track when she was young, so we met in that fitness space, which is so physicality was a big deal for us. That's like a haven for self-development is your ability to show up for yourself in the physical space leads to growth in many other facets of your life. So that's always been for us, it's always been a place to go.
It sounds like part of that is still nourishing you in your grief. You said you like to walk around with a weighted vest. What does that do
Yeah.
for you?
So I'm 43. So I know you said you crossed into the 40s too. Welcome.
We're here.
Yeah, but like things are different, right? Your body's like, hey, we're not the same anymore. So when she passed, I was having a real hard time being in the world, like being outside of the house. I was having a real hard time doing that because I didn't want to be out there. I didn't want to see people. I didn't want to do anything. I wanted to just sit in the house and I don't know what I was going to do, but I didn't want to do anything. So I was like, all right, I need to just get out and like be in the sun, and like breathe the air and hear the birds and like at the most basic level, I need to move my body because I had no motivation for anything. And I was like, all right, I can commit to walking. I'll just go for walks. Right. And I was like, that will be, I'm not going to like put all these crazy workouts on my plate. I'm just going to like walk. And I was like, I'm just going to get a vest just because it'll make it harder. Like it'll, for my heart, right? Cardiovascular activity is about your heart. So I was like, all right, well, I'll just get a vest and it'll be harder. And that will be, I'll call that my fitness for now. But what I realized in that was that the vest is a burden, right? It's something I can like choose to burden myself with, but I can also choose to deburden myself and take it off. Well, grief feels like a burden all the time that you can't shake, right? The gorilla attacks you whenever it wants. You don't get to choose, right? It just shows up. But the vest allowed me to like pick my burden and use it for as long as I wanted and do whatever I want and then take it off. And in that, I've not had one day, and I've probably been doing it for an amount of months, but inside of that, I've found that every time I take the vest off, I feel lighter in my body, which is great, but also my spirit feels lighter. And I noticed that when I do that, it took me a little bit of time, but I started focus on the feelings of grief and focus on her. And I would hear music that would remind me of her. And I would try to focus on that. So lots of times I'm walking down the street just in tears. And it's like that's like my zone to be in it and choose it. Also in that time I started to notice that my creativity started to show back up. And it was just in that small commitment to myself, not for any reason necessarily, other than just I think I need to do this, that I started to feel like things were unlocking for me. And like I said, there's no fixing any of this. Like I can't bring her back no matter what I do. But things start to change. And I start to feel myself feeling like some of the burden is I'm dealing with the spoonful from the cave, right? It's my active way to participate. It's like I'm grief is like music that's just playing and it's not going to stop playing, but you can choose to dance with the music or you can just like cover your ears. And I think this is a way that I can dance with it and participate in this part of my love for her. And yeah,
Yeah, isn't
so
it great that when you wear sunglasses, you can just cry your eye out and people can't tell as much?
oh yeah, I don't wear sunglasses. I just cry.
Oh, you don't? You do? You're just running
But
around
see,
crying.
there's
There
people
you
a
go.
lot because they're gonna get it.
They're gonna get it. So do you feel like the vest I mean, what an amazing symbolic thing. Do you feel like it maybe gives you a little bit of an element of control? Like, when I have this vest on, I'm putting it on, I'm choosing, and then
It
you
is.
go on it's essentially like a grief walk, right? Like, I'm gonna be in nature, just gonna let my spirit go, the tears come, and you have that
Yeah.
somewhat again, like you said, you take the spoonful from the cave, but you're opting to take it rather than the bear
Yeah,
climbing over you at the
it
unexpected
is.
moment.
Yeah, because grief you can't control grief no matter how much you try. You can't. It's gonna do what it's gonna do. But to feel like to engage with it, maybe is a better way to put it, it gives you a modicum of control, which I think is helpful because it does. It feels life feels very out of control. It feels very disorienting. I always feel lost. Always. I always feel sad. So, somewhere in there, there's gotta be I feel like I have no direction at all the time. So that at least gives me plug-in to something that feels like it's doing something because everything else doesn't make any sense, spending really committing, like, when you commit to someone for, as a life partner, you're running a timeline with them, and you're like, this is my person. This is what we're doing. This is my path." Like, we got married, we started a family, we did all these things together, and then all of a sudden, they're gone. I'm still on that path, right? It didn't end, and that's really weird to have it not end. To the day when she passed away, 12/12, to wake up on 12/13, I was like, "What is going on?" It's like a foreign land. Finding ways to build a bridge to, like, the life that I loved and cherished with her are the things that save me every single day. And for me, that is writing, that is posting videos of her on social media, that is the book that I wrote. That is what saves me because I don't know what I would do because you feel so distant from anything that you love or want. And like I have the kids, I can't just be this insane drunk guy waking up in a ditch. You got to show up in your life. It's hard because the girls grieve too. They have their own things they go through. And no matter how much I'm grieving, if they're grieving, I have to hold space for them. And that's a huge learning experience too.
Yeah. So I know you wrote a grief guide for kids. What
Well,
have you
yeah.
learned
So,
so
yeah,
far?
yeah. It just, we have things that we do that work for us. So I decided to do a little bit of research and just see what could be out there for people because in this space that I've found myself, I realized that a lot of people are going through this and there's no rules. So I was just like, I'll just put together this grief guide and do some research and they're just exercises for that they're helpful, and because when it comes down to it, it's such an individual journey. Everyone, we experience it differently. I experience it differently than each of my girls. And it's really hard to put any focus on someone else when you're in turmoil. And it's like, please, like, yeah, is there something that will help? Great, try it. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. If it does, it does, And I have people constantly pouring in D, which I'm very blessed to have. So I was like, I'll just put this thing together and if it helps, it helps.
Can you give us a sample of maybe 1 or 2 things that y'all have found or you have found that people wrote to
Um,
you and found helpful?
yeah, so we every night we watch mama videos. So I fortunately in my life, I was the guy that was like always filming stuff. Just for no I was just that person. And in this season that has come in very helpful because I have lots of videos of us and her and them. And so we watch videos of her and we talk about her and we do it every night before we go to bed. And that's really helpful for us. One other thing we did is there's a wall in our house, and it's been on my post sometimes, but it's the mama wall. And there are, I think, 600 some pictures that I made into collages. And so there's like, it's five kind of like big frames that I basically double stick taped pictures, kind of all over. And above it, it says mama, and it's above one of our couches. And so it's just the mama wall. So you can walk up and see like a photo and it brings a story because she was sick for 5 years. Our girls are 8 and 10. So they really don't have many memories, if any, of mama healthy, which is really is just a crime. I really,
Mhm.
so I really wanted to make an effort to bring pictures of her where she's healthy and vibrant to the forefront, and these videos and these pictures do that. And then because I noticed one of my girls asked if I could tell them a memory of mama recently after she passed, and my brain was like fried. I couldn't think of one because I had 5 years of memories of her ill, and I was like, this is a problem, not only for me but for them. And so I was like, I need to find a way to front load good memories because the queue of memories that I have in my mind is not the ones that you want. And so that was kind of that. So, we do those things and those are really helpful. We talk about her all the time. I always tell the girls, like, when they do something that how they remind me of their mom, and we just keep her on our tongues all the time. We just always talk about her,
Yeah.
and, that's I think that's the way to honor her.
Yeah, well, and I think that maybe helps a little bit with that feeling of being like an alien, because part of being feeling like an alien is, of course, like, you're having these huge emotions and everybody else is, like, picking up milk from the grocery store, like,
Yeah,
it's a totally ordinary day. But I think part of also that feeling of being an alien in grief is, like, again, what you said earlier is that people don't wanna bring up the person who died because they're afraid that it's gonna, like, open up this well of grief when you're like, "Bro, I am already I am in it, like,
yeah,
there's nothing you can say that's gonna push me over the edge. I'm already over the edge, y'all." And so
yeah,
really having practice with your girls of, like, she's present. She's not here in physical form, but she's in our heart, she's in our mind, she's in our memories, and I'm not gonna let you feel like an alien that your mom just disappeared off to some land and we're not gonna talk about her.
yeah.
You're really bringing her in the forefront of the everyday.
Yeah, and we moved, so we lived for 5 or 6 years, like, in the Kansas City area, and then we moved, eh, for her probably last 6 months down to Texas, so we live in a place where people don't really know us. Really nice, but it's also a double-edged sword because people haven't met her there. So when they meet us, they meet 3 of us. They don't meet 4 of us, and that's challenging to manage too because she is a very important part of our life, and in Kansas City or in Kansas, people know her. So it feels very disconnected because when we walk into a place and they don't know about her, it's like, well, she was the best part of all of us. So it's a comfort because people aren't asking about her all the time, but also it's a struggle because she was the heart of our family.
Yeah, and it sounds like it's still and you don't have her, which, I mean, that is just like you said, waking up with despair every morning, but having that mama wall, having those videos to just
Yeah.
at least nourish your heart and keep her alive. Yeah.
Yes,
Say her let's say her name. What's her name? What did you
Rafi,
guys call her? Rafi?
Rafi, yeah.
Rafi. Yeah, say her name forever and ever. Oh my gosh. So, God, I just, as I was thinking about this episode and interviewing you, I was just thinking about, I was married for almost, what was I married for? From like 21 until till 28 or something. And, we were not like you and Rafi. We were
Right.
meant to be together for a short period of time.
Yeah.
And probably not even all 8 years that we were married were we meant to be together. But we sort of had become at the end of our marriage one of those what I will call like a Netflix we ended up it was really interesting because in the beginning of our marriage, we had opposite schedules
Yeah.
where I forget what our jobs were at the time. We were both young. I was 21, he was like 24,
Yeah.
25, but I was working in the day and he was working at night. And
Yeah.
we only had Sundays, and Sunday was like our day. And so Sundays we were like, this is our day. We'd go on adventures. We were super present with one another. Well,
Yeah.
eventually his schedule changed, and so we both were working in the day, and then we had our evenings free. Well, because the amount of time that we had together went up, we were together a lot more, the value kind of went down because we were being complacent, and we ended
Right.
up becoming what I will call a Netflix couple. We ended
Sure.
up watching, like, all 200 episodes of Lost, which is, like, PS, not even a good show
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
all,
Yeah.
and, like, by the end, I'm like, "Why am I watching? This is the most horrible show." But we had just gotten in that thing of like,
Yeah.
okay, you get home from work, you eat some food, you sit in front of the TV, watch a few
Yeah.
episodes of some horrible show, you go to bed, and then Groundhog Day, you do it all over again.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, you have such a unique perspective on that now because you're like, if Rafi was back, you guys would not be sitting around watching 200 episodes of this
Right.
horrible show, Lost. So I'm just curious, if someone listening today is in a relationship where they do love the person and they really but they've fallen into a rut or a trap where they've become a Netflix couple.
Yeah.
What would you say to them knowing what you know now?
I never would have thought that I would lose my wife when she was 35. I never would have thought it. And the one thing I did that I always tell people to do because the switch people that I needed was an internal switch, right? It was like I needed an internal urgency in the moments of my life. Let's just say that I wasn't engaged, right? So my first 30 years, like I told you, it was like I needed an internal switch. And so the key was flipping the switch. And in this journey, my wife, I would say she came to terms with it being the end. I would say probably 3 times, which is a monumental task. I can't say that I've fully done. I've made attempts at it, but she did it, and it doesn't surprise me, she's a very strong person. In that course of our journey, I read a book that mentioned to write a death letter to your person. It's a common thing in the military. So when someone's going overseas, you imagine that they may not come home. It's very possible, right? So they will write a letter that's to their family or to their person if they don't come home, like, hey, give this to my wife if I don't come home, or give this to my husband if I don't come home. So in the book, it said to do that. And I took that very seriously because of the situation we were in. And so I did that. I wrote the letter to her, and it took hours and so many tears. What it requires you to do, if you really do it, right? If you really do it seriously, you start to take stock of how you show up in your life and what you value in your life and what you want to tell those people in your life. And when you do that, you show up differently in your life because our problem is our contribution. It's never the other person, right? It's our side of the thing. It's like we're not contributing to the relationship. We are being lazy in ourselves. The thing that we realized in our marriage was that I thought that marriage was like a destination. Like you just get married and you're there. And I was completely wrong. My wife didn't want to get married. And when she met me, she wanted to get married. But what we found out was it wasn't the marriage. It was that you got to wake up every day and be committed to that person. And you have to be intentional with that person. And your intentionality is an internal thing. It's not an external thing. And if you can flip the switch internally, and that letter will do it, if you'll do it, you'll show up differently in your life. And that's what we all need. And life is going to give us so many reasons to be distracted and to be numb and all these things, right? Stephen Pressfield calls it the resistance, right? Life is going to give you so much resistance in your life to do the things that actually matter. And those are a million different things, right? But to intentionally show up for someone is the best gift you can give them. And that, I know I've done it. That exercise is so valuable because that's the problem, is that we get bored with our lives. We get bored with whatever, and it's like, all right, well, I'm not gonna be bored anymore. But we've got to, it's an internal conversation. And that is a way to flip that switch.
So you write a letter to your partner as if it was your last day.
If you and I were partners, I
Yeah.
would write you a letter right now. I'm not gonna give it to you, but I would write it as if I would not see you tomorrow or ever. Like, this is it. These are the last things you can ever say to someone. And if you allow
And that
yourself to
was
go,
huge.
because there's so much science behind your ability in your mind to create a scenario that your body doesn't realize that it's fake, right? It's like you can experience something or you can experience something, and you can experience something in such a way, and breath work will take you there. There's lots of ways to get there, but that you're like, did that happen or did that not happen? So if you really put yourself there and you make yourself write it out, there's a clarity in taking something from the inside and writing it, right? And it works because the switch is internal. It's interesting to have a case where, like in a relationship, it's two people, right? But you both have to flip the switch to be engaged in the relationship. Like if one person won't flip the switch, there's nothing the other person can do because you can't do it, right? So I was very fortunate to have married a person who flipped the switch, and so did I. And it was so we were together in this thing. Now it took a pretty gnarly journey to do that, but that'll do it for you.
That'll do it. Yeah, write the letter, and like you said, it creates this visceral, I mean, it's again, the mind's ability to differentiate between imagination and real is very, it's actually
Yeah.
funnily incapable of doing that very often,
Yeah.
and I can tell you when I was in my year of death anxiety and I literally thought that every time I drove, I was either gonna fly off the overpass or hit someone, or when I was through trying to go to sleep at night and the visions of the people around me dying, like, my body thought that it was real. They were real cortisol flying through, it was real grief, and so, yeah, writing that letter is a beautiful exercise, and again, right? Because it's so wild, isn't it? Like, it sounds like you really knew that Raffi obviously was just an amazing fucking person while she was alive. But there is this thing about supply and demand that is so wrong and sad, but so true, which is like when the supply of something goes down, right? Like when the supply of time or life or whatever goes down, which is what the exercise of the letter writing is it's taking your imagination from going, I have 50 years with this person to saying, I have 1 day. What would I say? What would I do? How would I feel?
And I'm not saying that I was perfect at showing up in my life because I wasn't. When someone gets something like cancer, you become more attuned to your interactions with them, of course. Because there were plenty of times where I was caught up in a job, like everyone. So I'm not saying it from a place of like, oh yeah, I'm on a pedestal. Like that's not at all. It's like I just went through a period where I had to start choosing things because we were being forced to do that. And it's like I've stumbled upon a lot of things. And this is one of the things that I stumbled upon that was helpful. Yeah.
So if you too are stuck in a Netflix relationship, write the
Well, and some
letter.
people like when she was towards the end and there wasn't much we could do, we would watch Netflix. And that was our intimacy time. And that was okay, And I think it's just yeah, but if you feel like you're stuck and don't feel connected and it's like, okay, well
Yeah.
connect.
Yeah, that's what it's about is that intimacy. Again, when the supply of time goes down, somehow the value goes up and it's like, "Oh my gosh, like here's this person here." It's not about demonizing Netflix, it's about, like you said, that intimacy and what are you sharing in those
Yeah.
moments.
The crazy thing is the supply of time is none of us know. I think that your ability to stay intentionally plugged into today is so cliche. People always say, all that there is now. There couldn't be more truth to that. Because in 50 years, if you make it 50 years, you're going to look back at a whole bunch of nows. You never get to tomorrow. So it's like, be in the now. Like, find a reason to be engaged in right now. And if you can't, maybe something is out of place in your life and maybe there's a conversation there. Because I've had a whole bunch of relationships in my life that were not me and Raffi. They weren't the one. And so there's a problem there. If you can't find yourself in this connected state, it's like, okay, well, maybe there's a different place for you. And then I think we have the opportunity at some points to find that person. And it's like that was a tremendous gift that I came upon in my life. And I'm so grateful.
So speaking then of aliveness, right? There's been
Yeah.
times, and again, I cannot say that I have any idea of how you feel, but there have been times when I've been in grief or I've been even in heartbreak after a relationship when, that emotion is so high and it kind of makes you feel alive, right? Like because you're so like wounded, you're so like you're so present, right? Like you're so in the now. So I'm just curious in this time, like you're in active grief 6 months out from losing your person. What is making you feel alive today?
What makes me feel alive is connecting this place, this time with the life that I loved so much. And that is what leads me forward. And it's like I said, it's the writing as the weight of the grief subsides a little bit, I'm able to like see her and my daughters. When the grief is high, I'm not able to see that, which is very interesting. It's like it kind of takes away my attunement to that. So for me, I just try every day to manage it in the way that I can, and like I said, writing and walking is how I do that. And that makes me feel alive. And other than that, I can't see very far into the future.
Yeah.
I can't. And I'm not it's scary, but I'm not trying to because it's Yeah, I just don't know any other way.
In your work, you speak a lot about purpose and how you can't
Yeah,
imagine not living life with purpose now, especially as you're in this
yeah.
whole new journey. So, what is purpose to you? And do you feel like it evolves? And what do you feel like is your purpose that you're working on is now?
It definitely evolves. There are events that happen in life, right? And we aren't able to change those things, because if believe me, if I could change the event, I would change the event that happened to us. And you're just not able to do that. But when the event happens, and for me, that was losing my wife, when you wake up the next day, the question becomes, why am I here? Because I can tell you one thing, I don't want to be here right now because all I wanted was her, and now that's gone. Right. And so, in that angry wrestling match of like, why am I here? What am I doing? I think it leads you to a couple things. It leads you to anything that I spend my time on is going to be something I feel very plugged into and I feel very passionate about because I don't want to do anything. So if I'm going to spend my effort to do anything, it's going to be something I feel connected to and I feel very convicted about. And then it also leads you to, okay, well, we're not just here for just to suffer, right? That wouldn't make any sense. Like that just doesn't make sense. So it's like there's got to be something bigger than us. And then that leads you to the conversation of God because we wouldn't just be here to suffer this pain, right? It's not there's no way. And so that kind of leads me to like, okay, well, what is the purpose of being here? Now, we all go through events in our lives and not everyone loses a spouse, but there's always the question of like, what are we doing? We all have our own unique story and our own unique experience and they're like things that because of your life that I don't know. And there are people that are kind of walking down the same path of you. They're just a few steps behind. It's like, why would you not take what you've experienced and try to bring light from the thing, right? My wife and I always talked about this, and we were going to do this, and we just ran out of days. Still, the question remains like, what are we doing? Because when existing is painful, the question shows up like, what are we doing? Why are we here? Because this sucks. Every day is terrible, right? Why are we doing this?
Mhm.
And my experience of that is grief. My wife's experience of that had grief in it as well, but it was cancer and a lot of pain. It's like, what are we doing here? Because this is horrible. There has to be more than this. And so for me, I've been in the coaching space for a long time and helped people physical coaching and personal coaching. And it's like, I know that we all get stuck and we all get lulled to sleep by the repetition of life, work in the 9 to 5, whatever you want to call it. And we end up almost falling asleep in our life and we don't feel plugged in, we don't feel passionate. And then something happens in our lives and our feelings crash into our reality and break us loose. And it's like, okay, in this moment, there's a harmony of your head and your heart. And now that you're listening, how do we move forward in a way that honors where you came from, what you loved, your story, and then the rest of the time you have here? Because who knows how long it is, but I think the majority of people, and I've been in this camp for a long time, is like, I really just like I have a job, like I had success, I had all the things. I didn't really like what I was doing. So there's like a hollowness in there, right? And so that's why I talk about purpose. And it has become more clear in my life in the past years because of my experience. But it's been present for a long time in what I've been doing. It just kind of molds into this new kind of thing, right? And, pain does that to you. Pain brings clarity to things. And it sucks, but it's the
Yeah.
truth, right?
So
That's
you're
the
on this
Yeah.
evolving journey of purpose, moving through the pain, experiencing clarity. And I mean, really, it's like an existential crisis. I mean, truly waking up every day and being in so much pain and being literally like, I can't. be here. Number 1, my person isn't here. Number 2, I feel horrible, like, and then you're just is it just that you grasp for something, or that it's your relationship with God that's like, "There's gotta be more to this, I'm just gonna keep
Well,
going?"
the unique portion about our story and is that so over these years, these things started to happen to us that were unexplainable. Like they were like there's no way you I could claim that I was responsible for what happened. So as an example, my wife was looking for this blood test to be done, and it was like this blood test for cancer cells that were floating around because we couldn't figure out what to do, and we couldn't she couldn't find it. She looked for like a year, and she could find stuff. She was very resourceful. I ended up putting up a GoFundMe, and we did like 3 or 4 over the course of this 5 years. A mentor of mine shared it, and a guy that literally sits across the table from me in a Bible study for, like, years sends me this long text message. He saw the GoFundMe, but I didn't mention the blood test in the GoFundMe, and he says, "Hey, at my office, we do all these things," and the blood test is one of the things that he wrote in there, and I was like, "What the heck?" So, I reach out to him, say, "Hey, dude, can we come in and do this?" So the next day, we're in the office getting the blood test done. The blood test gets sent to Greece to get the results, right? He messages back. He's like, "Hey, man, here's the bill, $8,000." Okay, we don't have $8,000. Like we're almost $8,000 short, type deal, right? And so I kind of told him that over message, and he said, "Okay, well, we can give you like an employee type discount, right? So it's $6,300." And I'm like, "Cool, we don't have it." Like, thank you. That's so kind of you, but we don't have it. So I get this message, and we're like, we already did the test. Like,
Yeah.
we're total panic. And one of my wife's best friends calls us and says, "Hey, our church has decided to give your family this month's tithe." And we're like, "Okay." Like, completely out of nowhere, right? They didn't know anything about this blood test. And she said, "I think the amount's like 6,300 bucks." And there's no way,
No.
there's no way that this could happen without it being God. Like, there's no way. In fact, the guy is in my Bible study. It came from our friend's church. No one knew. And then, to make it even more, the pastor of that church spoke at my wife's celebration of life. And this is years later, right, at this point. And we were talking, and he goes, "Yeah, I just thanked him again and all these things." And he said, "Part of our journey as a congregation was to be radically generous, like way beyond the bounds of what we should." Like, just to, like, just give in a crazy way. And he said, "Your family was the first family to receive this radically generous thing." And I was like, "There's no way." So and our journey was so full of moments like that. You're like, "That was 100% God. I have nothing to do with that happening," right? Now, another one, we went to Scottsdale to get treatment for my wife, and they basically told us across the desk she needed it so bad that her tumor load was tremendous at this point, and she could barely walk and all these things. And they basically told us over the counter that it was like, we have treatment, we can start whenever you want. It's going to be like 200,000 bucks, more or less, like with all the treatments, and all the stay and all the things together. And we were like, sure, because we have
It's
nothing,
life. Yeah.
And so they were like, "All right, well, if you want to do this treatment, we want to do a blood test before you leave town." Well, we're 1,700 miles from home. Like, we got to go back home, get our stuff together, move the family. Like, it's a lot, right? So, all right, fine. We do the blood test. It's like 2 grand, which we like was basically next month's rent. Like, we don't have it. We go home and completely freaked out. It's our third GoFundMe we put up. 10 days later, we're driving back to Scottsdale with almost all that money in an account. And I was like, there's no way. It's all God. And there were so many things that happened to us over the course of this 5 years that it just became an undeniable stack of evidence that God was with us this whole time. And so Now, I still believe that he's with us. And now, I don't like the events of my life, but the stack of evidence that we had all the way through was like, God's here. He's here. And that was his promise. It wasn't that he was going to take away the events of your life. It's like, I'll be with you the whole time. And there's no question. And there's still things that happen. They're like, there's no question. Those are things that are just, they're just tremendous happenings, and we always say like it was his story. We're just front row for the whole thing, you know?
Well, and I mean, there's a certain amount of, I guess, buoyancy, although I'm sure you don't feel very buoyant right now. But just knowing, like, again, like you get in these deep existential questions, which is like, if God was here then, even though this is just like the darkest moment of my life, that means that God has to be here now too.
Yeah. I mean, that's the conversation. There's this eh, looking in reverse. It's proof because I couldn't do it. We couldn't do it. We didn't have the money. I didn't earn the money. I wasn't even working. I got fired twice. We lost a house once. I think God was just like, I'm going to take this and I'll take you out of work twice. Just let me do it. And that's what went down. And in the conversation, it when I found myself by myself after she passed, it's like, okay, God, we're here. Now what do we do? Because so that conversation was already happening as opposed to just like an anger or something, and not that there's not anger and there's, all of those things, but yeah,
Yeah. And just that knowledge of having someone have your back no matter what, even when there's probably parts of you that just don't believe it at all. And I think,
yeah,
being with you today and coming on here and sharing your story and all of the videos that you've posted and the fact that you're still being a dad to those two beautiful girls in such a challenging time and all the people that you've been able to ripple out to now over the course of the past few months as you're showing up through your grief. Like you said, you're like, I am
yeah,
not here. I just maybe am a couple steps ahead of somebody else who might have just gone through this recently or went through it a long time ago, but never
yeah,
dealt with it and didn't write through it and do all these things. So
yeah,
I
just
just want to thank you today
yeah.
for your courage.
Thank you. I just committed to just talk about it, and that's all. I don't feel like I'm some grief expert or something. I just talk about what's happening, and
Yeah.
there are some things that are helpful and some things that I feel like aren't, in hopes that someone can pull something from it.
Well, I think that definitely there was a lot that we can pull from today's episode for people who are going through grief and people who are just going through hard times or knowing that hard times will come in any life and what do
Yeah,
I do? How can I prepare for it? So, thanks for coming in and talking
for
today.
sure.
I know you don't want to call it wisdom. I'll call it wisdom behind your back.
Yeah,
But yeah, man, Danny, truly such an honor to have you on and to share your heart with us. I'm
yeah,
so sorry for everything that you've gone through. And I have such respect and admiration that you're showing up and talking. And
yeah,
that's creating these waves. I want to know where people can find you online. I want to know the book. I know you and Rafi were going to write a book together. And
yeah.
so this is even more meaningful now that you've done it. And it's on pre-order, right? It's about to be out in the world soon.
Yeah, yes, it is in print right now. Thank God, yes.
Snaps all around.
It will be done printing and in my house in August. I think the coolest thing about the book is that we originally wanted to write a book about this since, like, 2021, and we just kinda, due to our life circumstances, just never got to it. When I was in this time after she passed, I was just writing, and I wasn't even gonna write a book or whatever, and then it came to me that we wanted to do that again, and so what I did was I took her entries from, like, the whole time she was sick and dropped those into a timeline. So you have her telling snippets of a story over a 5-year period, and then I took my own writings from those years and dropped those into the same timeline. So what you then have is, like, her and I telling you a story over a 5-year period, right? It's a little bit disjointed, and then I took as a narrator, I went back in and stitched them all like it's like a patchwork quilt to kinda tell you a story. So the way I think about it is if the 3 of us were sitting around a campfire and we were telling you about our life over that time period, that's what you're getting in the book. So there's no, I don't say he said, she said, he replied, she replied. It's my text is in normal font, hers is in bold. And we just tell you the story of these years. And there were so many moments in this story, like the ones I told you, the $6,300, the $200,000. We call them Jesus moments. And it was, we literally would laugh because they were so many of them, that those are in the book as well. And they're in like a shaded background. So the text reads as one, and inside those Jesus moments, there's a Bible verse that pertains to those. So what you have very really is her voice, my voice, and God's voice telling you a story that is not just a story of cancer and pain and struggle. It's a story of love, and it's a story of hope, and it's a story bringing light to the darkness that can show up in our life. And I just feel so honored to be able to put it together, especially with her words in it. So, we both become authors together, which is really amazing. Very wild experience to have. And so her name is that she's the first author on the book, and I'm the second author. But yeah, it's really cool. And I think that there's a lot in there. I know there's a lot of heart in that book, and I'm just so proud to put it out there. And it's a real journey. And I'm just excited for people to get it.
So where can people find information to pre-order it?
Okay, so are you going to put it in the show notes?
Absolutely.
Okay, so there's a link. Blue Hat Publishing is who has it, is the publisher. Just follow the link and you can go get it on pre-order there. And
Awesome.
there's
And what's your
also on my Instagram, you can go to my stand store and there's a link there as well.
It
It's
reminds me of that quote by Carrie Fisher, who's most famous for her role as Princess Leia, but she was a lifelong artist, and you've probably heard this quote, "Take your broken heart and turn it into art."
it's so good. And there's one more. Rumi says it, and I talk about it all the time. It says, "The wound is where the light enters," which is those are so they're so good. Have you heard of? Do you know what kintsugi is?
Yes, absolutely.
The
Tell everyone
Japanese.
what it is.
It's like a Japanese concept. When a pot or a dish breaks, and you have this like broken mess of a dish, kintsugi is bringing the dish and building it back together, and they put gold in the mortar. So where you have this crack and this break then becomes a gold piece. And then a dish that is put back together with this method of kintsugi is looked at more valuable than the original one that was broken, because it has the trauma and it has the experience and it has the break. And that's, when you were talking about the tectonic shift in the pieces of internal pieces of yourself, like that kintsugi is such a cool way to look at it. It's like, hey, yeah, like being broken is okay. And you can put yourself back together, but you turn into something new, right? You don't go back. You turn into something new. And the gold in there is the healing. And there's so many little sayings like the healing is in the feeling, all these different things, but that is what we can do with our lives, regardless of what our story is. And I want my story and our story to be a story of hope and light in the dark spaces, and because there's so much pain out there and that's not all there is. And
So beautifully said. The title of the book is?
thank you, cancer, which I realize is polarizing. There's a very good reason for the title, and I promise it's in the book.
And it's your art, and you and Rafi can do whatever you want with it, and everyone else will figure it
Yeah,
out when they read it. And what is art if not a bit polarizing?
absolutely.
Thank you so much, Danny, for coming on here and sharing what you've learned so far. And I'm seeing the kintsugi in you already, little by little,
Thanks.
and it just continuing to
Yeah,
grow.
thank you.
It's absolutely an honor to have you on, Danny. Thank you for listening to this episode of Be Alive with Kate Manzer. And thank you for listening to any episode of Be Alive with Kate Manzer that you have ever listened to. It seriously means so much to me. You guys, we are coming up on 1 year of this show. What? Yes, and I am not going anywhere. In fact, I am doubling down. I have the most epic and beautiful, exciting season 2, year 2 planned for you. We are going to go even more deeply into the science, philosophy, psychology, and woo-woo of the wild and wonderful experience of being alive, as well as one of my personal favorites, as you know, mortality awareness, mystical experience, and beyond. It's going to be so, so good. Thanks for being here. Share this with a friend, subscribe, and let's let this little show shine its light wherever it's meant to, but with the help of your sharing. Thank you so much. All my love. Thanks for being alive with me today.